Chapter 7. Weather, Climate and Adaptations.
Introduction.
Weather, climate and adaptations by all the living organisms are interrelated. During the summer months, people in Delhi sweat and fight the heat, while the weather in hills is pleasant or cold, and the weather in upper Himalayas is extremely cold. Do you ever wonder what conditions are responsible for determining the weather and consequently the climate of any particular region? Weather conditions play a very important role in determining our daily activities. There are daily reports of the weather conditions of a region in the newspapers, televisions and radios.
Weather. The weather condition of a region is determined by factors such as temperature, wind, clouds and precipitation, rain or snow observed there. Weather is a combination of events that happen each day in our atmosphere. These include temperature, rainfall and humidity. Weather is not the same everywhere. Perhaps it is hot, dry and sunny today where you live, but in other parts of the world it is cloudy, raining or even snowing. Every day, weather changes are recorded and predicted by meteorologists worldwide. We find that the daily weather report carries information about the maximum and minimum temperature recorded for the day and humidity and rainfall during the past 24 hours. It also predicts the weather for the day. It also carries information about the sunrise, sunset, moonrise and moonset times. The study of weather comes under a discipline of science called meteorology. The weather reports are prepared by Meteorological Department of the government. This department collects data on temperature, wind, rainfall, humidity, etc. and makes the weather prediction. Instruments. There are different types of instruments that aid in recording and predicting the weather conditions of a place. Some of the instruments which help us in recording the temperature, rainfall and humidity are listed below. A minimum and maximum thermometer is a thermometer that will tell you the minimum and maximum temperature in a given time period. This thermometer is U-shaped. One half is filled with alcohol, while the other filled with alcohol vapor or contains a vacuum. Rainfall is measured by an instrument called the rain gauge. It is a measuring cylinder with a funnel on top to collect rainwater. A rain gauge, also known as an odometer, pluviometer or an ombrometer, is used by meteorologists and hydrologists to gather and measure the amount of liquid precipitation over a set period of time. Types of rain gauges include graduated cylinders, weighing gauges, tipping bucket gauges, and simple buried pit collectors. Humidity is a measure of the moisture in air. A hygrometer is an instrument used for measuring the moisture content in the atmosphere. Humidity measurement instruments usually rely on measurements of some other quantity such as temperature, pressure, mass, or a mechanical or electrical change in a substance as moisture is absorbed. Climate. Climate is the average weather pattern in a place over many years. For example, the climate of Antarctica is quite different than the climate of a tropical island. Hot summer days are quite typical of climates in many regions of the world, even without the effects of global warming. Factors affecting climate. There are several factors that affect climate. These include latitude, land or sea distribution, solar radiation, humidity, air pressure, air temperature, clouds, precipitation, and winds. The climate of a given region changes over a very long period of time. Climate of Earth as a whole. Life exists on Earth due to its adequate distance from the Sun. The Earth is neither too hot nor too cold for us to survive. The climate of the Earth depends upon the following factors. 1. Distance from the Sun. All changes in the weather are caused by the Sun. The Sun is a huge sphere of hot gases at a very high temperature. It is very far from us, approximately 150 million kilometers.
The energy supplied by the sun is the source of all heat and light on the earth. So, the sun is the primary source of energy that causes changes in the weather. Energy absorbed and reflected by the earth's surface, oceans and the atmosphere plays an important role in determining the weather at any place. For this reason, there are places with very different weathers, such as coastal areas, deserts and mountains. 2. Earth tilt. The Earth takes 1 year, or 365.242 days, to orbit the Sun. At the same time, it spins on its axis, an imaginary line joining the north and south poles. As it spins, the Earth is tilted on its axis at an angle of 23.5 degrees. This produces the seasons. Seasons are regular weather patterns in different places on Earth caused by the planet's revolution and rotation. At any time, one hemisphere, half of Earth above or below the equator, leans toward the Sun, exposing it to more of the Sun's light and heat and bringing warm summer days. The other half tilts away and has winter. 3. Change of seasons. A season is a subdivision of the year marked by changes in weather, ecology, and hours of daylight. Seasons result from the yearly revolution of the Earth around the Sun and the tilt of the Earth's axis. In temperate and polar regions, the seasons are marked by changes in the intensity of sunlight that reaches the Earth's surface. This may cause animals to go into hibernation or to migrate, and plants to be dormant.
Climate of a place. Apart from the global factors, the climate of a place also depends upon local conditions. Distance from the equator. Most regions on the surface of the Earth experience seasonal change throughout the year. However, the seasons are least noticeable in tropical regions near the equator, an imaginary line around Earth's middle, because the equator does not tilt away from the sun for most part of the year. Height above sea level. Height above the sea level affects temperature, amount of oxygen in air and humidity. Distance from sea. Large bodies of water change temperatures much less rapidly than the atmosphere does. This means that the land next to bodies of water will experience less dramatic temperature extremes relative to areas farther inland. So, air above sea will be humid and this air will flow towards the land. With humid air above it, the land loses heat slowly and therefore remains hotter.
Adaptation of animals to different climates. Animals and plants are adapted to the conditions of the habitats in which they live. Animals live everywhere on Earth. Some places on Earth are very hot and some are very cold. Some places on Earth have a lot of water and plants, and other places have very little water and few plants. To survive in their habitats, animals develop physical features to help them obtain food, keep safe, build homes, withstand weather, and attract mates. These features are called physical adaptations. Thus, adaptations make it possible for the animal to live in a particular place and in a particular way. Each adaptation has been produced by evolution. This means that the adaptations have developed over many generations.
Adaptation. An adaptation is a way an animal's body helps it survive or live in its environment. Different animals have learned different adaptive mechanisms to survive in the extreme habitat conditions. An adaptation can be a short-term response or a long-term response to an environmental condition or change in condition. An example of short-term response is the ability of mammals to adjust their metabolism to maintain a constant body temperature. Whereas the special process of photosynthesis in many desert plants is an example of a long-term response. Animals can live in many different places in the world because they have special adaptations to the area they live in. Some basic adaptations are the number of fingers, color of the fur, the thickness or thinness of the fur, the shape of the nose or ears, shape of a bird's beak. Let us discuss some adaptations in detail. Migration. The process of changing habitats due to extreme climatic conditions is known as migration. Some migratory birds travel as much as 15,000 kilometers to escape the extreme climatic conditions at home. Generally, they fly high where the wind flow is helpful, and the cold conditions allow them to disperse the heat generated by their flight muscles. But how these birds travel to the same place year after year is still a mystery. It seems that these birds have a built-in sense of direction and know in which direction to travel. Some birds probably use landmarks to guide them. Many birds may be guided by the sun during the day and stars at night. There are some evidence that birds may use the magnetic field of the earth to find direction. Apart from birds, various mammals, fish, and insects are also known to migrate seasonally. Some migrate to reproduce, while others migrate to avoid extreme weather conditions. For example, animals living in Antarctica migrate before extreme winter sets in. Mimicry adaptation. Mimicry is adapting to look like something else. An example would be the hawk moth, as it looks just like a dead leaf, tattered and veined. Camouflage. The process of hiding in order to save themselves from the predators is known as camouflage. The fur on many animals turns white during the winter. This allows them to blend in with the snowy background. This process also allows predators to blend in the background when hunting for their prey. For example, lions in African jungles blend in the bushes so that the grazing animals do not spot them easily.